Hey there, growers. Welcome back. To myself mostly. I say that because I've taken a break from this channel for a while, and you'll find out in a few minutes that it was for a very good reason. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jared, founder of the Vegetable Academy, where I teach people how to grow their own food and do it well. After well over a decade of growing vegetables seriously, first as a teacher, then as an urban farmer, and now through my Seed to Table course, I've accumulated a very thorough understanding of what serious vegetable growers actually need. And during my recent break from video creation, I've focused all of that experience on building an amazing new tool for vegetable growers like you. It is a one-of-a-kind garden planning app called Grounded. And for the first time in all my years of growing, this winter's planning has felt completely different. That's because I finally have a tool that does everything I need it to do. You'll understand what I mean in a few minutes because I'm going to give you a sneak peek of some of the app's features today. But first I want to share the story behind why this app was necessary. So let's start at the beginning today, which for me was this little black notebook. When I first got serious about growing my own food, I did what any slightly obsessed and focused person would do. I sought out every credible source of information available. I collected my own library of garden books. I sifted through reports of scientific crop trials, and I peppered local market gardeners with questions. And every time I discovered a critical detail, it got recorded in this little black notebook. Things like crop spacing recommendations, yield expectations, temperature thresholds, germination rates, harvesting patterns, storage methods. It's all in here. It is definitely one of my prized treasures as a grower today still. Then, when I started growing for market, I added to this resource in a new way. Since crop failure was no longer an option as a market gardener, I kept detailed records of absolutely everything, and I did so digitally. So every seeding, every potting update, every transplant, every harvest weight, year after year. The spreadsheet collection I built up over that time is still genuinely valuable. And thanks to this data, I can tell you with real confidence how many pounds of carrots to expect from any given bed, or the optimal time to start onions relative to our last frost date, or the absolute last time that I can transplant beets if we want them to mature fully before they freeze in the fall. I can tell you these things with confidence now because I have years of trial and error and this concrete data to back it up. But there's a real difference between data that's valuable and data that's easy to work with. And as the spreadsheet collection grew, it started to become its own kind of problem. I was managing to organize all the numbers I needed, but I have to admit that the work still required an appreciation for math, which I know not all gardeners share. The spreadsheets had major limitations too. They just couldn't solve all of my planning problems. And because of this, I was also using a graphic design app for laying out my garden beds, a task manager app for staying on top of my to-do lists, and a 3D modeling app for drawing out my garden site plans to scale. All of these different tools worked for their specific purpose, but I didn't like having all of my important information in all of these different places. Now, when I organized all of my growing experience into the Seed to Table course and started working with students, something became very clear very quickly. The growing techniques I was teaching, students picked up on those enthusiastically and had real success with them. The planning system I was handing them, that was a different story. And I understood why. Not every grower wants to spend their evenings navigating between a spreadsheet for production data, a different spreadsheet for planting schedules, and a graphic design app for the garden layout. Truthfully, I didn't want to do that either. I just did it because I had no better option. So for a long time, I accepted that this was simply the limitation of what I could offer to my students. But to be honest, there was some embarrassment in that as well. I dreamed of having just one tool that brought it all together so that the garden layout, the timing, the task management, the harvest tracking was all neatly organized into a single place that actually made sense to use. Now, many of you are probably aware that some garden planning apps do exist already, and I did explore those out there. Some of them were scratching the surface of what was possible, but they all had major flaws. What changed things recently was the arrival of AI-assisted development tools. Today, it has become possible for someone without software background to build a functional professional application, provided, of course, that they understand the problem deeply enough and can also articulate what they need clearly. I recognized that this was the moment I've been waiting for because I was that person. I had over a decade of growing data, and I had years of experience working with students that showed me exactly where the friction was. I also had a very clear picture in my mind about what this planning tool actually needed to do. And now, finally, I had a way to build it. So I stepped away from all of my public teaching for about half a year now, and I got to doing the deep work of building my dream garden planning app. A couple of months into the app development process, I had a working prototype, and this was very exciting for me, but I was still nervous about how the app would be received by other growers. So I invited a group of my Seed to Table course members to try it. Would people dive into this app more willingly than the spreadsheets I used to share? Would it make sense to them intuitively? I just needed some feedback. And what happened next was far more useful than what I had anticipated. The early interest from my students confirmed, first of all, that the tool was needed, and that was great, yes, but it was their genuine feedback that I really valued because it pushed my thinking in directions that I hadn't considered while working on my own. Their questions about the app revealed gaps in the planning, and their suggestions have improved so many features already. The version of the Grounded app that I'm sharing with you today is substantially more capable than what I started with because a group of serious growers helped shape it alongside me. Now that feels like exactly the right way for a tool like this to come into existence. All right, let me give you a taste now of what this app can actually do for you. Deeper instructional videos can come later. Today, I'm just going to expose you to a few of my favorite features so that you have an idea of what you're getting here. Let's start on the garden layout canvas because most of you should be familiar with this kind of view of your garden plan. The garden layout page allows you to draw your garden precisely just as you might do on paper. You can even import satellite imagery of your actual property and position your beds right on top of it, which makes the layout process far more accurate and faster than anything you can draw by hand. Now, you could create pretty much the same kind of digital plan with most other drawing apps, but this is only presenting the garden layout as a fixed plan, a snapshot of one moment in time. Vegetable growers need something more because we're putting our crops in and pulling them out all at different times, from early spring through to late fall. It's not like planting a tree and watching it grow in the same spot for 20 years. Any garden planner that can't account for this passing of time is quite frankly a waste of time. So here's the first feature that sets your Grounded garden plan apart from any other carefully measured garden drawings. That is to show you every moment in time as your garden changes throughout the season. And it's so easy. All I do now with this app to adjust the timing of my garden plan is move this little timeline dial forward or backward through the season. And the garden updates before my eyes in real time. Crops appear when they're planted, they disappear when they're harvested. You can scroll through your entire season before you've put a single plant in the ground and see exactly what's happening. This allows you to easily identify where the gaps are and confirm that your planting sequences actually work the way you planned them. You can even skip back to past years and check what you had in the beds beforehand. Now, if you've sketched out a garden layout before, you'll also know that the planning doesn't stop with this visual site plan. When you place a crop in your garden plan, you're also committing to buying the right number of seeds, planting them at the right time, and harvesting the food. Those are a lot of additional tasks that you'll need to get right on your schedules and to-do lists as well. And that's why I've made sure that the app could work out those logistics automatically. For example, when I add a crop of onions to my garden plan, like this, numerous updates are synced with this plan. My crop selection page is immediately updated with the number of seeds I need for that specific onion variety. A new seed starting batch will be added to my seed nursery page with instructions for seed starting at the right time and in the right size of soil blocks. And every seeding and harvesting task necessary for this onion crop is automatically added to the task manager page on the correct date. So there's no extra planning work required. You just put the crop in your garden plan where and when you want it, and the secondary planning tasks take care of themselves. Next, let's look at the bed calendar page. This is a great page when you want to see your whole season in one timeline. For example, when you are fine-tuning the timing of your succession plantings. One crop will have several successions of this season is carrots. So if I filter the view here for carrots, I can see the exact timing of each of my carrot beds, and I can easily drag the labels forward or backward in time to make any adjustments. You can see immediately where a succession fits, where the timing is tight, and where there's room to squeeze in another planting. Okay, I'll just show you one more page today, and this is the page I personally find most rewarding to look at. For years, I've maintained a harvest log spreadsheet, which I mentioned earlier. So now I possess hundreds of rows of data representing every harvest I've ever recorded. The information is there, but pulling anything useful out of it means sorting and filtering the data every single time. Now with the Grounded app, I can just look at my analytics page. I can see harvest trends over time, actual production compared to my targets, yield per square foot, organized by crop, and even the market value I've produced per crop. All of it presented visually and quickly readable at a glance. And because this harvest data can be entered back into the production standards for each crop, the Grounded app will help my planning to get more accurate every single year with very little effort on my part. Well, I guess aside from building the entire app. That has taken quite a while. Okay, there are two things I want to be clear about before I wrap up. First, this is a beta. The foundation is solid and growers have already been using the app to plan their 2026 seasons, but there will be continued development. That's part of what this period is for, and if you join right now, your feedback will contribute to making the app even better. Second, beta access is completely free right now. There will be paid tiers introduced eventually for the more advanced features of the app, but at the same time, the free tier will always exist in parallel to make the pleasure of garden planning accuracy affordable for the masses. If you want a more thorough look at everything the app can do right now, the seed nursery planning, the climate optimization, the full task management system, stay tuned. I will be making some more videos to demonstrate specific features at some point. But honestly, why wait for that when you can start exploring the app right now? It's pretty intuitive, it's free, and there's a link for you to join the beta below this video. With that, welcome to Grounded. I'll see you on the inside.